Hi, everyone. Jonathan Kozlowski here, and welcome back to another episode of The Cure. Construction safety is an essential component for the job site. There's a ton of areas to talk about: construction zone safety, creating a safety program, personal protective gear, the engineering of tools, and more. Today, we're talking specifically about fall protection. We spoke with John Hammond, Senior Safety Specialist for Doka USA. He heads up the U.S. division for safety products there. Doka has been in the construction industry for 150 years and counting, where the company's primary business has been in formwork and formwork solutions. In the last several years, they've been more and more interested in adding value to everything they do for their customers, one of which comes in the form of safety solutions.
My safety division that I run is fall prevention specifically.
Okay.
I'm often heard in many meetings to kind of jokingly, tongue-in-cheek, say nobody ever wins a fight with gravity. And if a person falls, they're going to lose. If a product falls off a building and that hits a person, that person can be injured or killed. So gravity is the enemy here. We want to make sure that nobody has a bad interaction with gravity. So we work with our clients to provide solutions to keep debris, equipment, and most importantly, people on buildings. If you're working at height at 100 feet above the ground, if you fall off that building, your chances of living are probably pretty limited, depending on how you land, of course. But our goal is to work closely with our clients to have zero incidents on their jobs and have zero injuries related to fall.
There are a few announcements I saw that are all based on safety at the job site. Is there one that's specifically aimed a little bit more for the concrete contractor?
Well, all the solutions that I offer are geared specifically for concrete structures. You know, we as a company believe that all workers should go home safely at the end of every shift with all their all their eyes, go home safely to their family at the end of every shift. So, you know, we have perimeter protection that goes on the edge of the building as it's going up that keeps the workers and the debris on the building. We also offer that same solution for stairwells and also in front of elevator shafts. Elevator shafts is another area that's known notoriously for falls. A worker can very easily go into that elevator shaft by mistake and fall to their death. So we have a very unique solution to protect the elevator shaft. We also have debris nets, so that if a piece of debris or a tool or something that shouldn't be going off the side of the building does go off the side of the building, it will be caught by that net. And then our most recent addition is something called the Fall Pro, which is a personal fall prevention anchor, which you're working on a level that has no columns or ceiling to do a tie-off into. So you can use this device that you would actually attach the worker to, and then they can lay plywood for you and be very, very productive and safe while doing so. So all of our solutions are very, very key to concrete. Safety managers individually may focus on different ones, but we feel they're all equally important.
How long has Doka been involved in the safety aspect? It sounds like it's been in it for a while.
It's always been kind of baked into everything we do. We've been around 150 years, and you know, we have formwork solutions going back 70, 100 years that have tie-offs built into them. And of course, you can't assemble something without keeping safety in mind to make sure it's safe to assemble it. So, you know, when we're engineering these solutions, we're trying to think, okay, once this is installed, what's the safety factor? Is it safe to install? Is it safe to leave while it's full of all this concrete that's trying to burst out of it? Is it safe to leave for a few days until the concrete is cured and we can strip it? So we've always had safety in mind with everything we do.
What was the formwork like 70 years ago? And then what was the safety?
Well, you know, safety's improved exponentially over the last 10 or 15 or 20 years, Jonathan. You might see photographs of workers riding to the top level of the building on a wrecking ball after their lunch from 40, 50, 60 years ago. Famous pictures in New York City of workers sitting on steel girders having their lunch 100, 150 feet above the ground, and they're not tied off. You know, if you see those pictures, you have to wonder if all those guys did safely go home to their family at the end of every shift, because they were kind of working without a net. You know, if you think of like a trapeze artist or a tightrope walker, Most of those guys have nets, and we look to provide that kind of safety. And it hasn't always been there, but every year it gets more and more important. You know, Doka is a proud member of Construction Safety Week, which happens the first week of May. And every year there are new initiatives and new products and new dedications and rededications to the importance of safety on a job site and working at height. And it gets more and more every year. We have many, if 20 years ago, a general contractor had 3 safety directors, that was considered pretty good. And now you've got usually one on each site, and maybe a safety director and a safety deputy and the assistant director of safety and that kind of thing. So, companies are more and more interested in investing in the safety of their workers in the job site. And it's great to see.
So while the high-rise and multiple-story buildings are really obvious, and obviously when they're going down really deep, it's pretty obvious on how fall safety is relevant to them. What other type of construction projects should contractors consider these solutions for?
Well, we've got this new product I just mentioned to you called Fall Pro, which is a personal fall prevention anchor. And we're looking at using that more and more on bridges, because bridges are infrastructure projects where the worker is working at height. So you do want to protect them from falling. OSHA requires you to protect a worker, and they either need to be tied off or have a perimeter protection to prevent them from going over the edge if they're more than 6 feet off the ground. So we're getting more and more involved in building bridges, hydroelectric plants, cruise ship terminals, things like that. And we have solutions for those as well that will help improve safety. I do most of my customer meetings in person, and that was the case up until March of 2020. And here I found myself sitting at home trying to stay in touch with my customers and trying to remain relevant to my customers and trying to find new customers at the same time. And finding new customers is, in this industry, one of the few remaining industry where you really need to be there in person. It's not done by a Zoom meeting or a telephone call or mail or email. You do need to be there in person. So I found myself last March trying to determine how to be relevant and continue to be relevant to my customers. And my boss and I decided it was time to launch webinars. So about probably last June or so, June of 2020, we started to do webinars on a monthly basis featuring our safety solutions, and we continue to do that now. Now, the events that you're speaking of are webinars focused on each of our solutions. We have, again, a fall prevention device called Fall Pro. We have our safety net fans, and we have something called Smart Edge, which is an edge protection system. So we offer an overview of these products and these solutions and what they bring to the table. They all offer labor savings, reduced labor, and increased safety for the worker. Each of these webinars will be as close to a hands-on as you can get. So we give a very, very good and detailed overview of each of these products, the features, the benefits, the cost savings, the labor savings. And we try and share with the attendees to these webinars as much as we can without being with them in person. And the logical next step for those interested in doing so is to bring the product to them either on a job site or maybe a yard or maybe an office and do some hands-on demonstrations. We've done probably about a dozen or so webinars now, and we're always happy to follow up with our clients and prospects and meet with them in person so they can put their hands on it, because you can see these things in videos all day long and you can attend webinars all day long. But before you make that final decision to buy, you want to see how it works. So the webinars are as close to hands-on as we can possibly get. Then the general contractor or the concrete subcontractor might invite us out. And that's when kind of the rubber hits the road and they touch it and feel it and they make their buying decision then. Many general contractors are investing more and more into their safety endeavors. I often attend dropped objects seminars and webinars for companies, large general contractors who just want to work closely with their teams nationally, in many cases internationally, to make sure that not even the smallest screw falls off a building. There's a famous story in New Jersey years ago where there was a delivery man on a job site and a worker dropped a tape measure from about the 18th or 20th floor. And that tape measure picked up velocity as it continued closer to the earth as gravity took hold of it. And that tape measure bounced off the ground and ricocheted up and hit the gentleman in the back of the head and killed him instantly. This is an example that I use often when I'm in my meetings to talk about it doesn't take much to create a serious problem. Something minor like a square tape measure that's maybe 1.5 pounds took that man's life that day because it was dropped by accident. But safety is of utmost importance because the most minor thing can create the biggest problem.